That was our homies right there. You know what I'm saying? We kicked it with them all the motherfucking time.
Wow.
That was the first dude I seen. You think Jada Pinkett was entangling? She was entangling with Chris Kelly from motherfucking Kris Kross, because Kris Kross was in the room and he was like, Jada Pinkett is at the door, but don't leave.
What if everything we've been told about Chris Kelly's heartbreaking death wasn't the full story? Chris Smith, his partner in the legendary duo, is finally breaking his silence, and what he's spilling has people shook. He's throwing serious shade at Jada Pinkett Smith and Jermaine Dupri, blaming them for the spiral that led to the Kris Kross star's tragic end. Now the streets are buzzing with whispers of secret hookups and shady cover-ups. Smith's claiming Jada was the real reason Chris started struggling, and that she dragged him into a dark world he couldn't escape from. And Jermaine, according to Smith, he knew exactly what was going on, but chose to stay quiet. Chris didn't fall off on his own, he hints. He was led there. People are asking, did Jada really pull a teenage Chris into something dangerous? And did Jermaine just sit back and let it happen? This ain't just some wild rumor, it's turning into a straight-up scandal. Flashback to 1992. Two young kids from Atlanta caught their big break when Jermaine Dupri spotted them in a mall. That moment launched them into stardom. But what came after might have been way darker than anyone ever imagined. That one random encounter in the mall kicked off the rise of Kris Kross, a duo that didn't just make noise with their tracks, but had everybody flipping their clothes backward to match their wild style. But here's the jaw dropper. These besties were just 12 and 13 years old when it all blew up, and somehow, even at that age, they had Jermaine Dupri completely locked in. During a 2018 chat with Grammy.com, Jermaine admitted something that raised a lot of eyebrows. He said, "You gotta understand, people out there, Kris Kross weren't rappers. They weren't kids walking around with demos. They weren't trying to be rappers. They weren't trying to be singers. When I met them, I said, 'What do you do?' He said, 'We just cool.' I was like, damn, get these guys a record fast." And boom, Jermaine wasted no time. He handed them a shot and it paid off big. Their debut single exploded in 1992, smashing charts and becoming the crown jewel of a multi-platinum album. These kids weren't just cool, they were untouchable. Their debut album, Totally Crossed Out, with Jermaine Dupri behind the pen, was straight fire. Even though Chris Kelly and Chris Smith were just teens, their delivery hit harder than anyone expected. It was like they were born for the spotlight. Their anthem, Jump, didn't just chart, it took over. The song locked in the #1 spot in the US for a wild 8 weeks and racked up over 4 million sales. To the Mac Daddy and the Daddy Mac, this wasn't just a hit, it was a movement. Overnight, Kris Kross wasn't just in the game, they were dominating it. The fame rolled in fast. These kids were suddenly touring with Michael Jackson, popping up on TV shows, and get this, they even had their own video game. That's not just fame, that's legend status. With bars like, "Make my video show the top of hip-hop, the Pac-Man, who ain't no wax man." Their style was playful, loud, and totally unforgettable. Even though they never managed to score another smash like Jump, tracks like Warm It Up and Tonight's the Night still kept fans vibing. They dropped 2 more albums through the 90s before the duo eventually split paths. But the legacy, still untouchable. As the fame kept rising, not everyone was cheering. Some people started questioning if pushing 2 young boys into the spotlight so fast was really the right move. And by 2009, those worries hit a boiling point. Photos of Chris Kelly started surfacing online. He had visible bald patches and fans went into panic mode. Rumors were flying everywhere. Was he sick? Did he have cancer? But Chris shut it down himself in a raw, honest interview. He said, "My health is good. I just got alopecia. I don't have cancer, not other sort of diseases." Alopecia, a condition that causes hair loss, was the truth. Still, the concern never really faded. Then came the real shocker, something nobody was ready for. On May 1st, 2013, just a few years after clearing the air about his health, Chris Kelly was found unresponsive at his Atlanta home. He was rushed to a nearby hospital, but it was too late. He was pronounced dead that same day. The cause? According to his mother, Chris had gotten sick after using illegal substances the night before. She told authorities her son had been battling substance issues for some time. The news shattered fans and left the hip-hop world in mourning. Chris Smith, his other half, and Kris Kross dropped a heartfelt statement. Kris Kelly was my best friend. He was like a brother. I love him and will miss him dearly. That's how Kris Smith remembered his best friend. Their bond started way back in first grade. Two little kids who grew up side by side and ended up living a dream most people could only imagine. It was a blessing to achieve success, travel the world, and perform for Kris Kross fans everywhere with my best friend, Smith shared. It's what we always wanted. It brought us real happiness. The connection between them wasn't just music. It was life. It was real. Smith made it clear that the memories they made would never fade. Jermaine Dupri also stepped up to speak on the loss, and his words hit deep. To the world, Kris was Mac Daddy. But to me, he was the son I never had, he said. When I really think about it, I spent more time with Kris and Kris than damn near anybody else in my life, so you already know how hard this hits. He finished with a promise straight from the heart. I'll always love you, Kris, and I'll never let the world forget you. May God bless your soul. Kris's label, So So Def, also released an emotional tribute. To millions around the world, he was the trend-setting, backward pants-wearing half of Kris Kross, who loved making music they wrote. But to us, he was just Kris, the kind, generous, fun-loving spark in every room, the life of the party. Even though his time was short, they said they were grateful to have shared unforgettable moments with him. His legacy will live on through the music he gave the world. But even with all the tributes and statements, fans were still struggling to accept the truth. How could someone so full of life, so young, be gone just like that? And then things took a wild turn as fingers started pointing again. And this time, they were aimed at Jada Pinkett Smith and Jermaine Dupri. People started asking, did they play a part in what happened to Kris Kelly? Here's where it gets real messy. In 2022, Daz Dillinger came out swinging with a claim that shook the internet. He said Jada had a thing going on with Kris Kelly back in 1993, and let's not forget, Kris was just a teenager then. The whole thing set off a storm of questions that still haven't been answered. Let's break this down. Kris Kelly would have been just 15 years old, while Jada Pinkett was already 22 at the time. That's a huge age gap. But according to Daz Dillinger, it didn't stop Jada from getting way too close. He even claimed she introduced Kris to illegal substances, which, if true, would change everything. Now, some folks brushed off Daz's claims, thinking he was just chasing clout by dropping Jada's name. But when you take a closer look, it might not be so far-fetched, because Jada's image as polished and drama-free, it's not the whole picture. She's admitted to having a rough past, one that wasn't so squeaky clean. Back when she was a teen herself, Jada was deep in the street hustle, no rumor. She said it herself in an interview with People magazine. Jada opened up about growing up in a chaotic home, saying she had to fend for herself to survive. Her words, I knew that anything that I needed was something I needed to provide for. I decided to sell drugs. That confession changed how a lot of people looked at her and made Daz's claims hit way harder. Jada didn't sugarcoat her past. She straight up said that growing up, it was the drug dealers who looked like they had it all. That's what success looked like in her world. Considering my circumstances at the time, she explained, my mother was not doing well. She was a high-functioning heroin addict. The house was falling apart, and they barely had the basics. Survival wasn't easy, and Jada made it clear she did what she had to do. But here's the kicker. Jada didn't leave that life behind right away. She kept living it until fate linked her up with Tupac. Yeah, that Tupac. They met in 1986 as sophomores at the Baltimore School for the Arts. That friendship would become legendary. And for Jada, it marked the beginning of a turning point. But let's not forget, she didn't meet Kris Kelly until 1993. So here's the question that's got people raising eyebrows. If Jada was still finding her footing in the late 80s, are we really supposed to believe she fully cleaned up her act by the time she crossed paths with a 15-year-old Kris just a few years later? That's a fast turnaround, and a suspicious one too. With everything Daz spilled and Jada's own troubled past out in the open, more and more fans started connecting the dots. Many now believe that Jada may have played a role in leading Kris down a dangerous road. Think that's too far? Think again. Kris Kelly's own mother pointed the finger at the music industry, saying it played a huge part in taking her son's life way too soon. According to her, Kris had been struggling behind the scenes for years. Fame, pressure, expectations, it all started to crush him. And his way of coping? Turning to illegal substances just to get by. But things got way worse in the last months of his life. That's when he crossed into the truly dangerous stuff. His mom said he had simply hit his limit, mentally, emotionally, physically. He had nothing left to fight with. It wasn't just about personal choices. It was about an industry and maybe even some people around him pushing him over the edge. So what exactly pushed Kris to his breaking point? According to his mother, the answer was crystal clear. She believed the real issue was that Kris had been thrown into a grown-up industry way too early. He was just a kid, but suddenly surrounded by adults, fame, pressure, and some shady characters. That kind of exposure, she said, left him wide open to manipulation. And while she didn't call out anyone by name, fans quickly started pointing fingers, especially at Jada. The way people saw it, she fit the profile his mom was describing. And let's not forget Jermaine Dupri. He was supposed to be looking out for those boys. He was their mentor, their producer, and their link to the industry. But in the eyes of many, he dropped the ball. Fans believe both Jada and Jermaine had roles in a system that failed to protect a teen who never stood a chance against the weight of that world. While Kris Kelly was allegedly slipping deeper into dangerous territory, fans claim Jada was right there, dragging him down with her, caught up in shady entanglements and surrounded by an illegal hustle. And for anyone still doubting Jada's possible role in Kris's story, there's more to consider. People started pointing out a pattern: Jada's connections with younger men. Back in 2020, she shocked the internet when she openly admitted on Red Table Talk that she had an entanglement with singer August Alsina. When asked about it in a Vulture interview, August confirmed everything. "I don't know why that word is such an issue," he said. "I would agree with Jada. If you look up the definition of entanglement, it is a complex and difficult relationship." It was exactly that. I definitely have to agree with it being an entanglement. But here's what really got people talking: the age gap. When that situation began in 2015, August was just 23 while Jada was 44. No laws were broken, but fans couldn't ignore how much younger he was. And they started asking uncomfortable questions. With that in mind, people began revisiting her past friendship with Kris Kelly, who was only 15 when they reportedly met. The timelines, the age gaps, the connections, it all started to look way more suspicious than anyone wanted to believe. One commenter summed up what a lot of people were thinking: "I don't know how true any of this is, especially since he's not here to speak for himself. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Jada really was involved with him when he was underage, especially since she had no issue being with someone young enough to be her own son." Kris Kelly's passing hit hard. It shocked friends, crushed his family, and left fans speechless. And even after all these years, people are still asking the same question: who let him fall through the cracks? With all the skeletons coming out of the entertainment world lately, folks believe it's time someone took a serious look at what really went down. Some are even calling for an official investigation, not just into Kris's death, but into Jada and Jermaine too. There's still so much that doesn't sit right: the timelines, the influence, the silence. Was Jada just a troubled woman trying to escape her past? Or did she cross a line that no one ever held her accountable for? And Jermaine, was he really just a mentor, or did he see more than he ever admitted? What do you think? Could there be more to this story than we've been told? Let us know your take. And don't miss what we uncovered next.